Hello. Hi, I'm Judith DeLozier, and I just wanted to say a few words about the principles of NLP, also known as the presuppositions in NLP. In the days today, if you talk to Robert Dilts and myself, we would say there's sort of two major presuppositions in NLP or principles. One is that the map is not the territory. Now, having said that, what does that mean? The map, what is the map? The map is that structure that I carry around that has been built through my lifetime, through my experiences, my family, my school, my social space, religious space, all of those structures inside creates a map. We call it a map. It's a landscape or a structure, and that moves me through the world, and the world is the territory. And so the beauty of the assumption that there's a right or wrong map is what this is about. The map is not the territory, it's right. The map's the map. If I took out a piece of paper, it's called a map. It says here, you can guide me through this landscape out here in the woods. Here's the map of the paths, but every tree's not on there. Every flower's not on there. Every fence is not in. The animals aren't drawn in. There's no blue sky. It's a very flat place. And it's a map of something, but it does not completely represent the territory and never can. The interesting thing about the territory is that it's always changing. And the map is the structure that holds some stability, but the outside world, the territory, is in flux all the time. And sometimes that's a difficult thing to find the resonance between holding a certain internal structure in ourselves and in resonance, or as my friend would say, in good relationship with the outer world, which is always alive and changing at every moment. This presupposition, the map is not the territory, has many levels of understanding and depth. And one of those, and I think the primary one, was for me as a human being to assume that there are many maps in the world, and that they're all obviously working because they're guiding people around and they're getting things done in different cultures in different ways. But that A, they don't represent the territory, and A, there's no one right map. That a map can be judged as having richer possibilities in the sense that it's more flexible map, that it has more choices in terms of states, or more choices in terms of strategies of how to do something. But there's not a better map or a wrong map or a right map. It's about a richer map or a more compassionate map. So that if I have a richer or more compassionate map, I have the possibility to hold other maps, the differences in other maps. And that was the reason for that presupposition on one. Why would I do that? Why do I care? Why would I bother? Because it allows me to model difference in the world, and NLP is about the spirit of modeling. So that's one presupposition. Another presupposition, and this is the other big one, is that life and mind are systemic by nature. And what does that mean? What does it mean to be systemic? Well, that there's an awareness of connectedness through the system. That mind itself is a result of a connectedness through this system called the body of neurological pathways. It's called neuro-linguistic programming for a reason. It's the neurology. When our neurology cooks, as we say, when it fires, when these events happen, which create thought, is happening through my nervous system. And that is a systemic process. It doesn't happen just, in my little finger. It doesn't happen just in my hand. This unit produces a thing called mind, and mind is defined by any signal in the pathways that get put out into the world. Just like a tree, we're looking at a tree here, an oak tree, there's a certain bug that will come occasionally and it'll attack the tree. And when that tree gets attacked, it emits a substance which alerts other trees in the neighborhood of the same species, protect yourself from this bug. that is also mind. So it is systemic by nature, just like nature is systemic. It's a reflection. It's a reflection. Now we make distinctions because we call conscious and unconscious mind. Conscious mind can only deal with a small amount of data. So it isn't systemic. Although it's a part of something bigger, it forgets. That's where the problems come for some people. Because it can only manage it's only going to look where the light is at if you lose your keys. It's not going to look into the darkness if you lose your keys. It's only going to look in a small space. And it's only going to look where the light. You go, why are you looking there? Well, that's because there's the lights there. Okay. So I think those are the two big presuppositions that Robert Dilts and I would talk about now. But there are other ones. For example, the assumption or the belief that all the resources are in the system. When a person is struggling, when a team is struggling, when a business is struggling, you make an assumption that even though they're confined in a space of a problem and it's difficult to find resources, we would say we still know they're there. It's just a question is, can we expand and get out of that frame of the problem enough for those to emerge? Because this is Einstein going, I can't solve the problem with the same thinking that creates the problem. The thinking's the problem. So if I assume, just hold the principle that all the resources are in the system, it allows me to not get trapped in the problem. And then that, if I'm a consultant or a coach or a friend or a psychologist or a counselor or a team leader, it allows me to then bring awareness out, have people come out of that problem space in order to find what they need in order to solve it. That's the beauty of that particular presupposition called all the resources are in the system. Assume it, just like they're out there in nature. If we get out of the way, it's there. I mean, we just had this beautiful event where we go 17% of the carbons have fallen out of the air because of all the pollutants out of the air because of taking cars off. It's a good indicator that, look, there's a lot of resources in that system for repair, for rejuvenation, for recuperation, if we can take the pressure off. And this system as well. If we take the pressure off, that's why you get out of the problem space thinking. Another presupposition is that, I think a really, really good one is that sort of the most flexible, the person who has the most flexibility in terms of their states of being and their strategies will be more influential in a system than a person who doesn't. A person who's not flexible in their states, let's say they're emotionally not very intelligent, for example, or they do it one way and that's the only way and there's no other way to do it. If there's not flexibility in the system, then a leading element is most likely going to be a person that has more flexibility. They may not be in a leadership role, but a leading element is going to be the person who has more flexibility, both mental flexibility and physical flexibility in terms of states. What's another one of those presuppositions? Yes, now for the fourth and kind of final presupposition, and there are more, I want to talk about the power of positive attention. And what that means is that I'm going to make an assumption in communication that whatever happens in that communication, that I'm going to assume that the person is positively intended, that that they're not trying to hurt me, they're not going out of their way to do anything evil to me. Now, sometimes people do bad behavior, and I say, that's a different thing. You go just like a child. That's not acceptable, but you're still a good person. I'm not judging you as a negatively intended person. I'm just correcting something behaviorally or asking for a correction behaviorally like you would with a child. This is called feedback. But the power of positive intention is to assume that that behavior has a positive intention. It may not be positively intended for me as the receiver of that communication, but in that system, I look for where is the positive intention. And let me give you a quick example of that. in Bali. I use this story a lot. I'm in Bali working a big project. People are coming from all over the world to do this training. One of the women that I'm doing the training with, one of the other trainers, has been living in Bali for a while. She absolutely loves Bali. She has a very unique personal history and has never been able to really find home for various reasons. And now this has become home. She dresses Balinese. She wears her hair Balinese style. Looks beautiful. Loves it. Belongs there. It's like totally obvious, right? And so we're having this workshop, and this lovely lady from New York City shows up, and if I remember correctly, she was a psychiatrist, and an older woman as well. And she shows up, and she sees my friend, and she starts saying things like, "Why are you dressed like that? Don't you think you're making fun of the people who live here by wearing a costume like that? I think you should be ashamed of yourself, because you're much, too mature to be acting this way." And just kind of going on and on with all this I'm thinking, what is her intention by saying all those things? I got curious from that point of view. What is her intention by saying those things? So I said, what is your intention? And she says, well, I want her to feel bad. And I was a little bit shocked by, you want her to feel bad? You want her to feel bad because you think she's making fun of people, and this is a way to get her to change her behavior? I mean, I'm curious now, well, what's the positive intention of her feeling bad, right? Now I'm curious about that. And she said, oh, well, if she feels bad, then this is how I get to feel good about myself. Oh, so your strategy for feeling good about yourself is to kind of diminish another person or make them feel bad or put them down as a way for you to feel good. Now I understand. And that brings from me compassion. Because I feel like, I wonder if this person has very many friends, if this is the strategy they have for feeling good about themselves. And so, it brought a different call out just by being able to focus on and hold the assumption. I know in the system somewhere there's positive intention. And I want to make a distinction between intention, identity as a human being, and a behavior. That's really important. So thanks for listening. Hope to share more soon. Ciao for now.